We've got some drama building and some convergence of the storylines. Let's talk about Bad Monkey Season 1, Episode 8. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass. I'm here to talk to you about Bad Monkey Season 1, Episode 8. The Russian mob is very active in Key West, which is coming to Apple TV Plus on September 25th, 2024. This is the 8th episode in Bad Monkey. It has been a good series overall. It has only been getting better, and this episode is fantastic, just like the other ones. My hot take is I definitely think you should watch it. I really loved the way this episode started. It had some convergence of the various storylines, and it feels like there is a whole lot more trouble brewing. So I'm very excited to see where this series goes in the last couple episodes. So definitely check it out. If you haven't seen Bad Monkey, catch up now. There's only a couple episodes left, so you're going to want to be up to date when those ones drop in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to tell you a little about the episode, a few things I liked, and then really quickly go into a recap of what happened. So if you don't want to know what happens in this episode, I would turn it off when I get to the recap. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So Bad Monkey episode 8 starts right where Bad Monkey episode 7 left off. We've got Yancy, Rosa, his dad, and Cody in Yancy's house. They've all converged there, and everything seems to be okay until we see some bad men with guns approaching the house. Now, I wasn't sure which house they were going for. I wasn't sure if they were going for Yancey's or if they were going for the neighbors because they didn't seem to turn. Well, we find out very quickly at the start of episode 8 that they are going for Yancey's house. And then we find out why, and we find out a whole lot of other stuff. So, things I liked about this episode. The first, I liked the opening. The opening was fun. It was exciting. It kind of started off with a bang, as you can imagine when you got people with guns. But it also was funny in the way that Bad Monkey has been. It has some really fun humor and just kind of like a nice way to start this episode. The second thing I loved, I've talked about it a couple times already. There's some convergence going on. The storylines feel like they're converging. So characters that were in two separate stories start to like work together and pick sides. That started happening in the last episode. This one, it really solidifies. The third thing I loved, I liked the neighbor storyline. There's some fun, I didn't like the neighbor at the start. I thought it was annoying, but at this point it is fun. The neighbor is getting involved in some things, and it seems like the neighbor is going to play a bigger role in the future. And the last thing I loved, feels like there's some trouble brewing. Feels like this is setting up some really good drama for the last couple episodes, and I am here for it. So, all that being said, there really wasn't anything I didn't like about this episode. I thought it was good. It was fast. I know I complained earlier about the episodes being a little bit too quick. Well, they've gone to like a 43-minute model after being 50 minutes or 55 minutes for the first few episodes. So they are getting quicker, but it means that they are exciting. It means that they're enjoyable. So definitely check out Bad Monkey Season 1, Episode 8. And I'm going to really quickly go into a recap right now. So if you don't know what happens in this episode, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So like with most episodes, Bad Monkey Season 1, Episode 8 has kind of like three main-ish storylines. I'm going to start with the Bahamas, the Gracie storyline, and then go to Bonnie and then Yancy. So starting with Gracie, she and Egg are spending a lot more time together. They, spend the night together. Now that Gracie is kind of like by herself because Yaya has abandoned her after she found out that Gracie did some bad things to get that land. Gracie's all alone, so she and Egg are spending time together. Then after they spend the night together, they head to Nick and Eve's. And when they get there, they find out that Nick gave Eve a yacht. They are hosting a party for Nick, Eve, Gracie, Egg, and then some sort of like government representative to try to like woo him into granting them permits. Now they get this person to do it. He's going to grant the permits. And during the trip, Nick takes off his watch, his really nice watch, the kind of like focal point of some of the earlier parts of this series, to go for a dip. And while this is happening, Gracie palms it. So it seems like Gracie's going to get paid either way. And this is one of the ways that she's going to do it. Now, after the yacht trip, Egg and Gracie kind of like walk off a little bit, and Egg sings to Gracie. We find out that Egg is a good singer before this, and now we hear him sing. It's fun. He's singing to Gracie. It seems like they're having fun. It seems like they are finally both happy. Will it last? Oh, probably not. Not in this series. It probably won't last. So next morning, Gracie goes by Asia, her friend's place, and finds out that it has been trashed. Now, Asia has been talking smack. Asia has been like saying that that Nick and Eve bought land that was stolen, and so they wanted her to be silenced. And Gracie said she would take care of it, but apparently Eve wanted it to happen a little bit more abruptly, so she told Egg to smash up the place. Now, this makes Gracie angry, mostly because her friend got upset at her. Her friend basically canceled their friendship. Gracie goes to talk to Egg, and she's like, "Why'd you do that?" And he's like, "Because they paid me to." And so now she's mad at Egg. Gracie gets back home and she is all alone. She tries to reach out to Yaya, and Yaya basically says essentially like this is her problem. Like she kind of chose this, and hopefully this will like bring her back into the light. This like experience will bring her back into the light, knowing what it's really like to be alone. So now Gracie is very, very much alone. And because of this, and probably also because she has that watch, she decides to leave the island. So the last thing we see of her, she is getting into a taxi. Egg sees her. She kind of like waves bye to Egg, and she gets in the taxi. She's been talking about leaving the island for a long time. We will see if she does. So, going to Bonnie. Bonnie got arrested. Bonnie turned herself into that detective, and she got taken all the way to Oklahoma. When she gets there, we find out that Oklahoma doesn't want to prosecute Bonnie. The DA doesn't want to do it. The family doesn't want to press charges because they just want to move on. So Bonnie's essentially free to go. She had no punishment from this because no one wants to press charges now. And so the agent now has to drive her all the way back. We found out the agent actually wasn't like acting on orders. She kind of arrested Bonnie on her own because she recognized her from that video of Yancy, you know, pushing her husband's golf cart into the water. And so it seems like the agent almost went rogue or did it on her own to go arrest Bonnie. So now the agent has to drive Bonnie all the way back to Florida. Now, when she gets there, she goes to a gas station and buys 20 cans of gas. You're like, huh, that's a weird thing to buy. I wonder what she's going to use that for. Well, we find out that a little bit later. So, on to the Yancey storyline. Again, this episode starts with Yancey. We find out that it is Yancey who is the target of the soldiers, of the people with the guns. They turn their guns on Yancey's place. They shoot up the place a little bit. It seems like they are not trying to kill anyone because no one gets killed, and it is a pretty open shot. So they shoot up a bunch, and then they come into the place. Now Yancey fights back, and thankfully he's not using like a knife or a gun. So it's all fisticuffs. It's all, non-lethal fighting that they do because they fight, they tussle for a little bit, and then we find that we hear a familiar voice. Someone comes in, tells them all to stop, and we find out Pestov. Pestov is the one who sent them. Pestov, the owner of the store that I think Molly worked in, and now Molly's boyfriend. He is the one that sent these agents in. And he comes in, he apologizes. He says, "Oh my God, I didn't realize it was you. If I knew it was you, I wouldn't have taken this job." And he then tells like his men to clean up the house and do what they can. So they try to start cleaning up what they can. And Yancey asks him like he just wants to know how the one-armed man and the lady hired him. And he's like, it wasn't them. Your neighbor just said that he had problems with his neighbor and wanted it taken care of. Yancey, hearing this, doesn't very much like it. So he takes one of the guns, goes out to the neighbor's house, and just shoots up the side of the house. Doesn't hit the neighbor, but not really a good idea. You would think that that would cause some sort of police report. Apparently, no one is going to call the cops on this. I don't know. I feel like someone would call it. And the fact that Yancey then shot up the house in a very kind of public way, not very smart. But apparently, no one calls the cops because the neighbor can't call the cops because he hired these men to shoot up the house. And Yancey doesn't want to call the cops because if he does that, then Pestov is going to get in trouble. And so everyone's quiet. And I guess all of their neighbors also stay quiet. Maybe gunfire is, common in the Keys. I don't think it is, but maybe. So all is well that ends well. Now we find out that Neville is helping Yancey by spying on the Stricklands. He calls Yancey when Eve and Nick and Egg and Gracie go on that boat and tells them that they bought a new boat and whatnot. He's kind of keeping tabs on them. So Yancey, getting worried about this, getting worried that they are still kind of like continuing their nefarious plots, goes to find the FBI director and tells her, what is going on. And she tells him that there's nothing they can do. Essentially, there's extradition issues and things like that. And she kind of mentions if he was in Miami, then there wouldn't be a problem. And Yancey's like, I got it. And she's like, I didn't tell you to do anything. And he's like, no, I understand. I think she actually doesn't actually want him to do anything. But Yancey is taking it as a like little suggestion. Like, of course, she didn't tell me to bring him to Miami, but if he's there, then I guess we can get arrested. So Yancey and Rosa are trying to figure out if they're going to head to the Bahamas and try to get Nick and Eve back into Miami. And while they're talking about it, they head outside. And when they do, boom, the neighbor's house blows up. Turns out that's what Bonnie was using the gas for. She decided to go blow up the neighbor's house. And her reasoning is that she finally wanted to atone. She finally wanted penance. And because they wouldn't arrest her for her previous crime, she was going to make a new crime and finally get arrested for that. I don't know why she targeted the neighbor's house. She didn't really seem to have much beef with the neighbor, although the neighbor did, tell the detective that she had been, hanging around Yancey's place. Maybe there's a little bit of beef in there. Maybe she just wanted to do something nice for Yancy because Yancy's been complaining about this house for a long time, so she wanted to get rid of it and then pay penance also. Maybe that was it. But in any event, the neighbor's house is now a big fireball, and Bonnie gets arrested. So after this, Yancy and Rosa have decided that they are going to go get Nick, and so they enlist Caitlin to help them. Nick's daughter, who they have lost contact with, they bring in Caitlin to help scam them into America. Caitlin hates Eve. I think she hates what her dad's done, so she wants him to get justice. So Caitlin tells Nick that she met someone at church who has a lot of money and is interested in the Bahamas. And so she mentioned that, hey, my dad had a resort down there. She tells him that, like, you know what? I think if they buy a place, and I could come down and stay with them, and then I could be closer to you, kind of like tugging at his heartstrings. But in reality, she's trying to get she's running a sting operation essentially to get them to Miami. So after this call, Yancy and Rosa head to the Bahamas and they go undercover, but they're really bad at it. They don't stay undercover very well. They don't stay in. They go out to the bars because they have heard that both Nick and Eve just stay in their compound and don't interact with the locals. So they feel like they're safe heading out. I don't really think that's very safe, but this is what they do. They go to a bar and there they meet someone as they're trying to practice their story for why they're there. And it ends up being the pilot that has flown drugs back and forth, flew Nick and Eve a couple times. He is there. They have a lovely night. At the end of the night, they find out who the pilot is and they end up taking a picture for the wall. This bar has like Polaroid pictures of various patrons and they take a picture for that wall. And the next morning is the big day. Rosa heads out to meet the Stricklands and convinces them that she loves this place. And she says that she wants to pay for it in cash, but she's in no rush. So she'll come back in a few months with her architect to give them the cash and kind of like start planning, her place, the place that she's going to build. But she's like, hey, if you need the cash earlier, you're welcome to swing by Miami and pick it up. I'm just not in a rush, so I'll be back in a few months. This is their plan. This is what they're hoping for. And Nick and Eve are cash strapped. So it seems like they might do this. Now, during this time, Yancey sees Gracie at breakfast and he notices the watch that, Nick's watch, the $250,000 watch. He notices that. So Yancey talks a little bit. And again, he's really bad at being undercover. He reveals a little bit more than I think he probably should if he was trying to remain a low profile. Like, he doesn't know which side Gracie's on. She said she stole us from a bad man, but I don't know. I bet that bad man would want to pay good money to know that Yancey's in the Bahamas, so seems like a risk. In any event, they talk a little bit. They seem to not reveal as much, but they seem to show that they know more about each other and about the situation than they reveal. But when Yancey tries to get her name, she disappears. So after dinner, Yancey goes to Donnie's place, the place where Neville is staying. They have a lovely dinner. They have some, fun times. They watch the weather, and we find out that a hurricane is coming. A hurricane is coming to the Bahamas, and it's called Hurricane Mel, which is also Rosa's sister's stage name for her weather report. She is Hurricane Mel, and she's reporting on Hurricane Mel. So then we get a few scenes to close this episode out. We find out, one, that the neighbor's insurance isn't going to cover arson. And so he goes to the Sunny to try to see if there's anything he can do. He tries to bribe Sunny, not very well, and it isn't enough. But it seems like the neighbor is getting very stressed because if his insurance doesn't cover this house, he sunk a lot of money into it. That means he's probably in dire straits. And also during this time, we see Nick and Eve head to that bar, the bar that Rosa and Yancey and the pilot were at yesterday. They head to that bar to get some good food. And while they get in there, Nick goes to get some conch fritters while Eve stands to get a table. And while she's standing, the camera zooms in and we see that right behind her is that picture of Yancey, Rosa, and the pilot from the night before. Now, she doesn't turn around and see it, but it sets up that maybe she could. We'll see what happens. And that is the episode. That is Bad Monkey Season 1, Episode 8. So what's going to happen next? Well, a few things could happen. What's going to happen, everyone? Well, Bonnie is probably going to go to jail. I assume she's going to go to jail. She seems to get arrested this time for a very big thing. She'll probably be in jail, but I bet we'll see her again, at least for a little bit, maybe a phone call. Who knows? What about Gracie? Gracie was leaving, but a storm is coming. I don't know how quickly the storm is coming. I assume it is coming very quickly. So maybe Gracie can't leave. Maybe this is going to be another sign that she can't leave or that, her path is here because maybe she's going to try to leave and the storm comes and they can't take off. That's just kind of my guess. It'd be weird if Gracie just straight up left. Now, what about Yancey and all of that? I mean, I don't think that Eve and Nick are going to see the picture, But I think it's setting up that maybe Yancey and them are going to go there after to try to get a drink or try to, have some nightlife before either before the storm or before they head out. And so I think maybe they'll run into each other there. That would be my guess. Maybe something will happen. Maybe like Driggs will come and save them. I don't know. Something will probably either stop them from meeting or maybe like they'll see each other briefly or just for a second. Or you know what? Maybe Nick and Edie will see the picture and they'll see the pilot and they'll go get the pilot. And maybe that is why Grayson won't be able to leave because maybe the pilot will be about to take off and they get mad at him and they use his phone to try to get Yancey or try to figure out where he is. Maybe that's what'll happen. And so then they will have to try to track down Yancey in this island. There we go. That's a possibility too, but we will find out next week. But first, this week, check out Bad Monkey Season 1, Episode 8. Like I said, it's definitely watchable. It's definitely a good series. I've enjoyed it, and it's been getting better and better. And I think it's going to be a really exciting last couple episodes. So if you haven't caught up, hurry up, catch up, get ready because the last two episodes seem like they're going to be really good. And if you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.